Okay, you're looking for a portable sandblaster. Let me show you the one we bought. Hi, let me introduce myself and what we're here to do. First off, I'm Randall Rutledge. I'm 51 years old. I've been doing construction work most of my life. I'm a licensed builder, certified home inspector. I've built race cars. I've designed and built cars. Our current project is a resto mod version of the original Mad Max car. I've bought and used tools to make a living most of my life. A big thing for me is doing research before I spend my hard-earned money. I want to make sure I'm getting a good value when I spend money, and I always want to get the best product I can get for my budget. Our goal here is to give you a consumer perspective of products that we buy for projects that we do. We do the work, we use the tools, we buy the tools with our money. We're not sponsored, so we don't have to embellish or polish up a review to keep a company happy. This isn't scripted, but we will use the same format for every review. It's price, performance, and value. Every review will start with a features rundown before we do the PPV review. This isn't an unboxing. It isn't a ratings type system of a review. It isn't a just open the box because somebody sent us a product, we used it for 10 minutes, and then we read a script that they sent us. We will use a product in our shop until we feel like we can give you the review that you deserve. Every product that we review will also have a follow-up long-term review, even if that means that we broke it, killed it, wore it out, whatever it is, because that does happen here, and I've killed a lot of fucking tools in my time. So, let's review the features of the JEGS dual tank soda blaster. That's the product that we bought for our project. As you can see here, it has 2 tanks. It's operated with a dead man. This is actually the blaster where the media is released. You don't have to use it, both tanks. You can use tanks individually by using these shutoff valves. You can see here, green, red, identifies with the same colors that are on the gun to make it easy so you don't get confused. It's got an air shutoff so that you can service the unit without disconnecting the air line. Comes with this water separator, but we added another water separator that has a built-in pressure regulator so that we can manage air pressure at the unit the way we want to. Comes on a roll-around cart. Pretty heavy-duty hose for the media, and overall a decent package the way it's put together. First thing we want to talk about with this product is the price. When we bought it, we've had it for a few months. We paid $296 for it. The price currently for this model is $415. On your screen, you'll see a list of comparables that we considered when we bought this machine. We've been using this product now for a couple of weeks, and we're pretty happy with the performance of it. It does well. We use it at 60 PSI. We're using fine grade media. We're not using soda. And it has done a very good job for us so far. We've actually been reusing the media, sweeping it up, filtering it, and putting it back in to the point where I think we're on 7 cycles with this product. When we research products to buy something, we read reviews on this, and there really weren't a lot of great reviews on this product. And as far as setting an expectation, there wasn't a whole lot of expectation based on what we saw on the internet about this. Haven't seen any reviews on it, honestly. The biggest reason that we took a chance on it is we just kind of thought it was going to be a good product, even though we were slightly concerned about it not performing well just because it seemed like it may be too cheap based on the competitors that we had looked at. So after we've been using it for a while, I feel like it's going to be a good product. It should be a long-term product. The only issues that we've had with it so far, and I'll show you, is on the dead man. The dead man is a wear item, and it's because the way it shuts off the media flow, and I'm sorry you're getting a little more close up than you wanted, but you can see that it is eroding this block, and this block is replaceable. Other than that, and I'm sure the hoses will break down on the inside from the media flowing through them, I think this is going to be a good long-term product for us to use on future products or projects. Sorry, I don't see it. It doesn't seem to be poorly built or cheaply built. I'm sure they didn't go out too crazy, but when you look at how much this thing cost, you have to be reasonable when you're looking at quality of build. And honestly, for the price that we paid for it, I feel like the quality of build is definitely worth the money. We bought this product, and I'm going to show you, this is what we mainly bought it for right here, as we are sandblasting this car. Initially, we had looked at having someone dustless blast it, and it was going to be $1,500 to do, but then we realized we were paying for a service that was not repeatable, and while buying a tool would be repeatable, we would be able to use that tool on future projects and keep on using it. So instead of spending $1,500, we spent, again, at the time when we bought it, $296 for the sandblaster. And crazy enough, we've done a significant level of sandblasting, and at this point we've used $20 in media. Again, we have reused it, so I feel like based on that it was a good investment, because not only have we saved a decent amount of money, we've spent some time, but we've saved money versus having someone do it. We will have this for the life of the machine to repeat this process on future projects. The bad part was when we looked at pressure pot sandblasters, is there really wasn't a ton of reviews out there, even for the products that we used or that we didn't buy. And that's a hard thing, and that's why we're doing this review, is we want to give people information so that they can feel good about buying it or not buying it based on whatever you have a feeling of when you leave this review. The other products that we looked at, and again, the graphic showed it, they were $800, $1,100, $1,200 when you're looking at pressure pots. I feel like for the amount of money that we paid for it and for the current retail price of it, it's a great investment if you need a good pressure pot sandblaster for doing projects. Let's go down. I want to show you some stuff that I'm not real crazy about. One is, let's go back to the dead man. You see the dead man here, the two hoses feeding it. It's got shutoffs. All that's well and good. It's a little bit heavy. It's a little bit cumbersome. And then when you look at, and I'm standing back, it's got the long hose, which strangely enough, in some circumstances is too long, and in other circumstances is not quite long enough. But it's a very thick, and you can see it right there. It's a very thick hose, which it has to be a sandblaster. So it's a little bit cumbersome. My chief complaint, honestly, with all of this is this dead man doesn't have a lock. I feel like it needs a lock so that when you're sandblasting, you can lock it in the open position, because over time what happens is, and you don't notice it, your grip starts to slip, and then all of a sudden you're eroding the block. Now, all of this erosion is not from that, but some of it is. If it had a lock, you could lock it, and all you'd have to do is focus on, hey, I want to sandblast this. As is, you have to focus on, am I squeezing it hard enough? And that. And I'm fairly big guy, fairly strong, and I found at times For 30 to 45 to an hour at a time sandblasting with this thing, it's easy for your hand to fatigue and then your grip to lighten. So I'm not real crazy about that. The only other feature that I really wished it had that it doesn't is I wished it had a built-in pressure regulator. It's got the pressure gauge and it tells you what your pressure that you're running at. But I think it would be a cool feature because if you don't want to have the whole shop set to the operation pressure for whatever you find out works for your air compressor setup, that whole system set, like we're running 60 psi. If you don't want to have the whole shop set at 60 psi, you need a pressure regulator at the unit. One of the things to consider as well is we're running an Emax, pretty big compressor, 10 horsepower, 40 CFM. Depending on what compressor you run, it's going to have a pretty big effect on how good this unit performs for you. It performs very well for us, but we have a lot of air delivery, and if you don't have that level of air delivery, it may not perform as well for you. Things I like about it, I do like the fact that it's got 2 tanks, even though for now we're just running one kind of media through it, and I've only been using 1 tank, so I haven't seen a need to run 2 tanks. We did buy a fresh supply of media the other day, and I'm considering running both tanks, even though we'll have the same media in it and we don't have to blend. It just gives you a longer operational time. What we found from running 60 psi and the feed that we're doing is we get about 40 minutes of blast per 100 pound of material in 1 tank. So with that being said, if you had both tanks filled with the same material, you should get, hour and 20 minutes. Now that's going to be a long time holding that dead man with that strong spring, but at the same time, it just depends on how you're trying to do it. Obviously, you want to be as efficient as possible, but I've been very happy with its performance. It's a pretty simple setup. There's really not a lot to critique about it as far as shortcomings or it performing well. I think a lot of the performance will have to do with how your air delivery system is set up and providing it with proper airflow. So let's talk about value. Is it worth what we paid for it? Absolutely. Again, one of my biggest concerns when we bought this thing was I was afraid that it wasn't going to perform well because it was kind of too cheap. We're all about value, and value doesn't necessarily mean price. Value means what you get for what you pay. And a lot of times inexpensive tools are inexpensive for a reason, and they don't do well, or they don't perform well, or they don't last. And there's a competitor's machine out there that was kind of a single tank version of this, and it definitely seemed too cheap, but it had a ton of reviews, and they definitely would turn you off to it. I think it was less than $100. Again, the price has gone up since we purchased ours, and even at the new price, if you're going to do much sandblasting on a big project like ours, where you would spend a lot of money paying somebody, again, just kind of giving you a shot of it, or you're going to have projects to do and it's not a one and done kind of scenario, it's definitely worth the money. It has honestly outperformed my expectations. I didn't expect it to do as well as it did. And again, I think a lot of it had to do with our air delivery, but even with good air delivery, the sandblaster has to perform. Talking about value, a lot of times with tools, it's what is its used value? Because sometimes you use a tool and you're like, you know what, I'm never going to use it again. I bought it for this one project. If it gets me through the project, I can sell it and earn money. I've actually not seen one of these for sale used on the internet I checked Facebook Marketplace, I checked Craigslist, I checked several places just to see if I could find a used one, because oftentimes I like to try out a used product and just to see, because somebody will, again, use it one time and get rid of it. I really think you could do well selling one of these used. It's one, there's not a ton of them on the market, again, based on my research and looking for them. And the other is it's the only one that I've seen out there. There was another company that made a similar version, but I think they discontinued theirs. So I think used value was probably pretty strong with these units. We will definitely end up with a savings. So on this, and the way we're looking at this is, again, this isn't the only project we have going. It's not the only project we're going to do. It's, to us, it was a bit of an investment. There's a chance that if we got into doing this every single day that we would buy a much bigger unit just because it would hold more material. But for the level we're at right now, it's definitely it's performing well. And it's going to save us money in the long run, just by having this tool, having it accessible, and being able to use it whenever we want to without having to bring in a third party or take it to someone to have it professionally sandblasted. So we're kind of to the end of our format for how we review things, and I want to do a little quick recap on this. One is, would we buy it again? Let's look at it one more time. Here's the machine. Would we buy it again? Absolutely. Would we buy it at the new price? Absolutely. Just for an instant, this right here got damaged in shipment. I've made do with it. I didn't care. It has more than met our expectation for what we were thinking we were getting when we bought a $300 dual tank soda blaster, media blaster. It's been a great investment. I think anyone that's looking for a budget, and hate to say budget, but in the realm of what these things cost for other competitors, it is a budget machine. It's a very good investment. Again, the big thing that has to be considered is your air delivery. We have a very large Emax that makes 40 CFM. Now, if you've read through the specs on this machine, it says 20 CFM is what's required for this. That's minimum. For this thing to perform at the level that it has for us, you're gonna need probably closer to 25 to 30 CFM. You can't go out and buy a Husky Home Depot compressor and get the performance that we have out of this machine. And then not only that, there's a good chance it'll run a Husky into the ground, literally. It will burn up a lesser compressor. So one thing to consider before you buy this is to make sure that you have adequate air delivery, or you look at upgrading your air delivery. We will be doing a review on our compressor later on, but that is a huge component when it comes to this, because air delivery is key for a product like this. The product itself is great. No complaints, honestly. As much as the dead man drives me crazy and I'm not a big fan of it, I can make do with it. The big thing is support equipment. When you buy something like this, what support equipment is required? Well, a good air compressor, that's a big deal. So I hope that you guys have picked up something from the little bit of information that we've given you. You can see there's media all over the floor that has to be cleaned up. I hope our review helped you make a decision whether or to buy it or whether not to buy it. And thank you for watching, and we hope you guys have a great day.